I had $300 million in my personal account by the age of 32. By 40, I had absolutely nothing. Most people think hedge funds are about math, market indicators, or savvy intuition. They aren't. They are about the slow, methodical erosion of your soul. I didn't start my firm to destroy my life. I started it because I was obsessed with the game. In 2008, I launched my fund, Apex Capital. I had a proprietary algorithm that predicted volatility in emerging markets. It worked. For the first 36 months, we returned 42% annually. Investors were calling me the next Ray Dalio. I was being courted by every major bank from Goldman Sachs to JP Morgan. I was managing $4 billion in assets by the end of 2011. Success at that level is a drug. It isn't the money that gets you, it's the leverage. When you manage 4 billion, a 1% move is $40 million. You don't feel the money. You stop seeing it as currency. It becomes data. It becomes a scoreboard. But the scoreboard has a cost. My wife stopped asking me how my day was. She knew the answer was always the same. Either we made 8 figures or we lost them. There was no middle ground. I spent 70 hours a week staring at Bloomberg terminals. I stopped sleeping. I started taking stimulants just to keep the spreadsheets from blurring into static. I wasn't a person anymore. I was a high-frequency trading interface. By 2014, the market shifted. Quantitative easing had bloated the S&P 500, and my algorithm, designed for volatility, began to misfire. It started seeing ghosts. It made aggressive bets on the euro-yen carry trade. I remember the Tuesday in October. We were down $600 million by lunch. My analysts were pale. The interns were crying in the break room. I remember looking at my reflection in the dark monitor. I didn't recognize the man staring back. His eyes were sunken. His skin was gray. He looked like a corpse in a bespoke Italian suit. I didn't stop the trading. I doubled down. I gambled the firm's liquidity on a massive short position against the Chinese industrial sector. It was reckless. It was arrogant. It was the exact moment I lost my sanity. The market surged. We lost everything in 4 hours. The SEC investigation started the next morning. My office was raided by federal agents while I was still trying to call my prime brokers. My wife left 3 days later. She didn't take the money. She took the kids and the silence. She told me she couldn't live with a man who had become a hollow shell of greed. I spent the next 2 years in courtrooms. I faced a potential 20-year sentence for gross negligence and misleading disclosures. I narrowly avoided prison because I was able to prove the firm's collapse was the result of a system glitch rather than intentional fraud. I walked away with my freedom, but my net worth was wiped out by legal fees and settlement costs. I went from a billionaire to a man with $12,000 in a savings account. I moved into a small apartment in a suburb of Chicago. I don't own a television. I don't check the stock market. I don't own a suit. For the first 6 months, I couldn't even look at a computer screen without having a panic attack. My heart rate would spike. My palms would sweat. My brain was still trying to calculate risk assessments for a world I no longer inhabited. People ask me if I regret it. They ask if I would do it again if I knew how it would end. The truth is, I would do it again. That's the most terrifying part. I would go back to 2008 and sign the papers all over again. Not because I love money, but because I loved the feeling of being the smartest person in the room. I loved the feeling of having the power to move markets with a single keystroke. It's an addiction that is deeper than alcohol or narcotics. It rewires your reward center until you aren't satisfied unless you are constantly conquering something. I look at the young kids on Wall Street now, the ones bragging about their bonuses on TikTok, the ones chasing the dopamine rush of crypto spikes and leveraged short squeezes. I want to grab them by the lapels and shake them. I want to tell them that the system is designed to consume them. It doesn't care if you win. It doesn't care if you lose. It only cares that you keep playing. Wealth is a scale, but happiness is a threshold. I had more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, yet I couldn't buy a single hour of genuine peace. I had $1 billion, and I was bankrupt in every way that actually mattered. We spend our lives measuring our worth by the numbers on a screen. We treat our time like it's a depreciating asset. We trade our family, our health, and our memories for the sake of a portfolio that will ultimately be liquidated the second we die. I'm working a job now that pays me a fraction of what I used to make in a minute. I walk home at 5 o'clock. I talk to my kids on the phone. I eat dinner at a table that doesn't have a trading terminal attached to it. I lost my life to find my existence. You think you're in control of your ambition, but look closely at what it's actually costing you. Ask yourself what you're currently trading away and decide if the exchange rate is worth it before you find yourself staring at a blank screen, wondering where all the years went. The market will always open tomorrow morning. You, however, only have one chance to get it right. Is the scoreboard really worth the ruin?